We'll get this show on the road. We've got a bunch of people in the room already, a lot of old friends and some new ones. Dan Boyd's here as Padre and Bob, blah, blah. You misspelled my name there, Bob. Retired butchered boy. Reminds me that back in the dark, early days of COVID, I used to routinely come on and just do random live streams. And I remember that. I was getting housebound bored as well. So Lewis, no problem. I wasn't responding negatively. Lewis had jokingly said that I could consider becoming a Michigan Supreme Court justice, and I said, unfortunately, that is an elected position, and I have no interest in ever running for an elected position. Idris Taylor, hi all. How you doing, my friend? Fatty McButterpants got to go to work. Oh well. Dan Boyd's in the house. Mark Miller, 55 here in Metro Denver. It is 31 here in southeastern Michigan. We're going to get above freezing for like 4 or 5 days in a row now. Possibly melt all that snow that I had thrown with my snowblower in the week previous. But of course, it's going to get wet and muddy for a little while. Couple nights, it's not going to drop below freezing, believe it or not. So that's pretty cool. And of course, my cars are safe and snug in their garage, covered, waiting for driving weather. Dom Garza, first time in one of your live streams. Thank you for checking in, my friend Addie Nienbor. Hi, I might be mispronouncing your name. I apologize for that. Also, David P is a new subscriber. Looking forward to today's chat. Always like to see the new subscribers. You're welcome. I'm glad that you're here. I am McNathan. Hello, everyone from Sun City Center, Florida. William Page, 1970 Scout 800. Hello from Montrose, Colorado. Tim Nossman, good afternoon, Steve. Steve G, another Steve checking in from San Diego. Puppet Master, could be a question, could be a comment, could just be a sound. Dan Boyd says, yeah, YouTube definitely came out a winner during the COVID era. I suspect that viewing spiked quite early in that. Sandy Breeden's checking in from Lebanon, Tennessee. Victor, Jason, hi, Steve. Make it all make sense. That's beyond my pay grade, my friend, but I'll do what I can. Ram 50 V8's checking in from Harrison, Arkansas, where it is 52 degrees. I don't know if we'll get 52 next week, but we'll be in the 40s, which I'll take all day long and twice on Sunday. Ryan Holtzinger, all the snow is going to melt. Probably. David Zarodnansky says, I'm here, but that's to everyone else's dismay. Taco Cat is sitting by the pool sipping lemonade in Florida. And rocks in. Hello, Mr. Lehto. Up and jumped on me. I hope you're well. And I saw you comment on a video of mine earlier yesterday or today. Say, hey, there's Roxanne. I wonder if she's going to check out the live stream today. Apparently, yes. Johnny Z. Fraley, hey, happy Sunday. Chris Pott, cloudy and rainy in Portland. 2 inches of rain in 2 days. Oof. Of course, Portland is known for its rain, assuming we're talking about Portland on the northwest corner there. Live with the Hilliards. 40s here in Southwest Michigan. Southwest. When you check in from Michigan, please give me a town name or something to work with. I'm just curious. I love the state of Michigan. I'm in Michigan, and people will occasionally check in from places I've never heard of before. And I'm like, what? Or from places I have heard of before, like Slapneck, Michigan, which is not named after the concept of slapping your neck. It was after a misspelling of someone's name, who's apparently their name was Slapnick. Another story for another day. DePaul's in the house, 48 degrees and sunny in Staten Island. Peter Mandix, let's get this started off right. I just saw a new line of men's hair care products at Walmart, sponsored by The Rock. Hair care or skin care? Roberto Abatato says minus 40 Celsius to plus 10 Celsius in the last week. That's a big swing, but I'd have to do the math on that to know what range we're talking about, because here in America, we only work with Fahrenheit. Irving Johnson's always great to be here. Sure, why not? Hey, Frozen Canaries, greetings from Asbury Park. By the way, it's on the set now in the top shelf, not on the roof, but in the middle. The first shelf that's got a roof over it. Far right-hand side is a pin that says Jukes on it. Jukes, that a viewer sent in because they saw me wearing my Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes shirt a few weeks back. And it looks like it's got some patina, like it might be a collector's item. So I don't wear pins. I don't like putting holes through my shirts, but I will put it on the set with pride. Irving Johnson, always great to be here. Ronald Rist, what do you think of Scott Bullock for U.S. Supreme Court? You know, the sad part about if you put him on the Supreme Court, he'd make good rulings. But who would be bringing all those worthy cases before them? Scott Bullock, of course, the president of the Institute for Justice, and him and his organization have brought many cases before the U.S. Supreme Court, and they do a great job. Fat Blue, the PH, hello, all 45 here in Maryland. And Art S is checking from Central Jersey. Stephanie Howe, about 30 degrees here in Maine. You know, that reminds me, I had a pen pal in Maine that disappeared a couple of years ago. I should look her up. But I mentioned in a live stream just years ago that I like getting quote unquote analog mail, not email, but analog mail. And so she wrote me a letter. So I wrote her back. We were writing letters back and forth for a while. It's a lost art. Robert Dillon's checking in from Mobile, Alabama. Ben Heiser, Republic of Washington. And Dennis Berman, hey, Steve, glad I made it. Optimal Opinion, wow, is he actually a human? Referring to me? No. I'm pure animation. Somebody asked Chat GPT what would it look like if some old guy from Michigan were to rant for a couple hours. And this is what they came up with. It would have been funny if this is what would it look like if like a groundhog ranted for a couple hours, but what are you going to do? Pat Z, hello from Southern Texas, 59 here. And sunny, finally over freezing. Yeah, we always think of Texas as just being an eternal heat wave, and I know that's not always the case. IW, hey, just trying to snake a drain in the CNY, Central New York. Those drain snakes, that can get ugly and messy. I had a house a couple of years back where I had a big maple tree in the backyard that loved to just climb inside the big drain that leaves the house. And about once a year, like clockwork, I'd have to have somebody come out and work that out of there. BC65925, Bill Corey, did you happen to see my comment? Not that I'm familiar with, but you said, I got the book, thanks, and thought you liked the book, Choking in Fear. I'm not familiar with that book, but I have sent out all the books that people have ordered. If you haven't gotten your book yet and you're in the first week of orders, send me a note, let me know. But I've gotten a bunch of notes lately saying, hey, just got my book. Thank you very much. Got my book. I had one person contact me who said, I think there might be a problem. And I looked into it and it turns out there was a problem. My fault. But I also got a book returned, sadly, where in the postal service system, it got scraped in such a way that the address got torn off the front. And so it got returned as undeliverable, but it was deliverable when I gave it to you. Scott Argyles, good morning, Steve, from the Oregon coast where it's raining like crazy. And Ali Abdul Razak, hi from Kuwait. Thank you for checking in. Other side of the planet, basically, and I appreciate that. Lewis Browning, there goes Sled View Trail number 7 live cam. Not familiar with that one. Beata Graf av Del Hagen, good morning, soon to be in a cup of coffee. I assume you mean that figuratively speaking and not literally. Although I did see a journalist yesterday say this person literally exploded. And it's got to the point now where the word literally does not mean literally anymore. It just means really or extreme. So it jumped on me again. Roxon says the U.S. city names are interesting. Life with the Hilliards is in Constantine, and that is indeed down near here. I lived in Eau Claire, Michigan for a while, which would be, I think, west or northwest of Constantine, just a little bit. Beautiful little towns down there. And it's the deal where you get on some country road, and you drive 5 miles and you hit another town. You drive out of that town, 4.5, 5 miles later, another town. And it's just kind of cool how these towns pop up like that, you know? So Dan Boyd, of course, likes Hell, Michigan, and who doesn't? William Page in Odessa, home of a very, very good high school football program, or at least I'm led to believe. M. Kolba greets from balmy Milwaukee. I'm curious to know if Johnny Knoxville is going to be in the house today because I talked to him the other day. Taft, Tennessee is brightening up and 44 degrees, according to Randall Munson. The Prodigal Stranger, sorry I missed last week, but I was on holiday in Ireland. Hey, they've got the internet in Ireland, don't they? You didn't check in? Tom Redmonds in Hillsdale, Michigan. Thank you for checking in, my friend. Sean McGrath from Rhode Island. Just watched the 2-part 48-hour series about Timothy Masters. Unbelievable. Now I need to read your book. It's interesting about that because Timothy Masters, of course, was convicted of a crime he did not commit, spent 10 years in prison for that. And he and I wrote a book about his experience called Drawn to Injustice. And originally, 48 Hours did a story about him where it's like, look, they caught this guy and they convicted him because he did it. And then later they had to kind of tweak it a little bit to be like, oh, they convicted him when they shouldn't have. But the first version of it made it sound like, yeah, imagine that. They convicted this guy. And no, not quite. Daniel Kester's checking from Central California. Good. Thank you for checking, my friend. I was worried about you until I see you check in. Douglas Gus says, hello from Fenner, New York. You are in an unelected position. Yes, I like that. I like that very much. I'm not beholden to anybody. You can't vote me out of this office. Yeah, you can stop watching though, right? Rena Jet, love your stuff from up north in West Branch area, specifically Skidway Lake, aka Prescott, Michigan. There you go. West Branch, of course, is exit 212 and I-75. Everyone knows that because it's like the last big conglomeration of like fast food restaurants and stores. And you're heading north and you're about an hour out of Detroit and you go, wait, we forgot something. Or we need to stop and refuel and eat dinner or lunch. Boom. Exit 212. Alan Sr., you want to share a scratch off lottery ticket? I don't think I've ever bought a scratch off. To me, those are like, what? No, see, you scratch these off, and if you get 3 in a row, it's like, no. I want the one where it's like $300 million. So, James Chamelik, hey, greetings and funky, groovy salutations. I assume you wanted 2 O's in the grovy there. I could be wrong. Smoking toilet. Hi, Steve. I won't ask what that name means. It might have a meaning. It might not. No matter what, though, it's one of those things that you picture it and you go, okay, that can't be good. Long live Canada. Oh, wow. You just started. Yeah, I lie and say it was 9 minutes ago, but it was 12 minutes ago. We started about 3 minutes early today. Art S has a friend in Holt, Michigan. Holt, Michigan is not that far from Lansing, which is kind of the dead center of the Lower Peninsula. Lou T 1501, as the person in Portland said, it's raining here in Shed, 90 miles south of PDX. So it's a great day to stay inside and watch the water rise. 56 degrees F. When the levee breaks, my friend, when you're watching the water approach, it's never good because you can't go out and push it back that easily. So Proverbs 17:11, 45 degrees in the south of the Bronx, which I think is exactly what it says in the King James Version. Rocon 327, good morning from San Jose. So there you go. Roberto Abatados is minus 40 Celsius equals minus 40 F plus 10 C equals 50 F. Okay, gotcha. We could graph this, but boy, it would get complicated. Dan Boyd says it'd be a cool show to have Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes play with Ted Nugent and the Amboy Dukes. And I've been familiar with that similarity in names before, and it's always occurred to me because one's the Dukes and one's the Jukes. But yeah, the Amboy Dukes were Ted Nugent's first band that had some notoriety. Hey, Mrs. Teresa, 1999. It's me, Teresa, from Geneva, New York. I grew up on the very tip northeast corner of Maine, hometown Lubec. So is that in the U.S. or on the Canadian side? Because isn't there a Canadian side of land that's attached kind of to Maine? I never understood that. I always thought the border should go right down the St. Lawrence Seaway, but I wasn't around when they were answering that question. So Mind Bend, 44 degrees here in Ames, Iowa. Meanwhile, it's 36 degrees in the hometown of Southgate, Michigan. Smoking toilet, by the way, is in Ontario. A very, very large area of Canada, Ontario is. So D Wood missed last week due to snow plowing. Hate Hornet says, Steve, have you heard about the ongoing case of the student at the University of Minnesota being expelled for using ChatGPT? He used it in his defense, unironically. I'm familiar with it. I didn't do a story on it. I was going to, and then a couple other stories got ahead of it. But a guy, I believe, working on his PhD was expelled because they accused him of using ChatGPT or equivalent to help write his dissertation, I believe. I could be wrong about the dissertation, but it had something to do with what he was working on. And it's generally accepted now that you do not use those devices to help you write stuff you're working on. And I'm surprised it's that controversial. In the old days, they caught you plagiarizing, where you just stole material and said it was your own. That could get you in trouble if you got caught. People often didn't get caught. It's another story altogether. But yeah, I mean, was the guy surprised by that? Okay, jumped on me again. Mine, Ben says, when the levee breaks, what about if I drove my Chevy to the levee? Well, that's a different levee. It's got to be. It's when the levee breaks is Led Zeppelin. So Patrick Hamid says Monday at 5 a.m. here in Sydney. Coffee very much needed. Now a curmudgeon's got ADF in Sin City. I'm assuming that's Las Vegas, but you never know these days. James Smack, hey Steve, from flood ravaged Western North Carolina. I've heard there's some issues there. I don't know if you saw this or not, but in Detroit, some water mains broke and flooded some streets, and people have got their cars like half underwater, and then it froze. It's one thing if your vehicle gets wet. It's another if it gets frozen into a block of ice. Mrs. Therese, this is the very northeastern point of the coast of Maine. My father was a commercial fisherman and dragged scallops and sea urchins in the Bay of Fundy. I'm looking around, going, "Where's my phone? I have a phone here somewhere, don't I? Hang on. I'm curious about this now because I was reasonably certain that if you look at a map, yeah. So if you were to go to the very northern tip of Maine and step across the border, you'd be stepping into Canada, and you'd have a little bit of a hike to get to the St. Lawrence Seaway. And then, of course, out at the tip of that peninsula that Maine is on is New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island, and of course Nova Scotia, and so on. But yeah, that's what I never quite got, like how we negotiated and lost that chunk of land. But there you go. So Josh Holman says it's always hot in Arizona, but it's a dry heat, right? Oh boy. Scuba snacks. Oh yeah. Hi, Steve. Jason Drury, 6 p.m. here in the UK. I follow Aussie Pink Floyd on Facebook, and they're playing in Germany right now. And I'll see a thing where it says, "Hey, everybody had a great time last night. Looking forward to the show tonight." And I do the math, and it's like, oh, right about the time I'm seeing it, I think they're going on stage. So big time difference there. D Wood, quick question. In legal terms, what does dicta mean? Dicta. Generally speaking, dicta is a reference to stuff in an opinion that does not have legally binding power. So, you can find an opinion by a Supreme Court that's 30 pages long, and a couple pages explain the issue, a couple pages, and in between's a bunch of other stuff. And they're basically saying somebody could say that's dicta, that's not controlling. But it's a portion of an opinion generally not considered to be controlling with respect to its legal precedence value. Red Rocking Geezer says, my grandfather started with the Oakland Motor Car Company in 1911. They later became Pontiac, and he was the head comptroller. He was made a vice president of finance in 1928. And at that time, his salary was $12,900. Oakland Motor Car Company, I've heard of them, of course, as the predecessor to Pontiac. There's a town called Pontiac about 25 miles outside of Detroit, and it's the north end of Woodward Avenue. And Pontiac used to have a very large presence there. In fact, General Motors still has some presence there, but it's not what it used to be. But a lot of that stuff is interesting when you hear about the history. I drove the other day through Highland Park, Michigan, and Pontiac. And Highland Park, of course, at one point in time had a huge Ford presence and also Chrysler or Dodge presence. So it's always neat. You can drive down Woodward Avenue and see a big building that's got a historical marker out in front of it. And it's a building where they were manufacturing using a moving assembly line. As a marker that explains it all, that's the building where they did it, at least for the first time with Ford. Duncan Campbell, good morning, Steve, from Melbourne, Australia. Currently 61F or 16C. And that's 5 a.m. It's 5 a.m. Steve F68, are you going to cover the rapper who's trying to sue Lyft? Well, you put rapper in quotes. She actually is a rapper, but I get what you're trying to say there. And I believe they are suing Lyft. It's a question of whether she'll succeed. But I'm not going to do a whole video on it only because, unfortunately, there's not much I can say beyond what's already known. But there's a woman rapper who talks openly about how heavy she is. And a Lyft driver allegedly wouldn't let her in his car because he said, I think you'll damage the car. And so they're suing Lyft. And we'll see what happens. So Jason Finch says, hey, it's about 1:15 here in Michigan. Yeah. For those of you who want to calibrate your clocks. Tiberius says, hello there, everyone. Always enjoyed watching this channel and have been binge watching all the videos of the past. Too long by now. Hope you'll keep up making more. Okay. Mr. 3 Rocky, greetings from Iraq, Mr. Lehto. Your videos are fun to watch. Well, thank you. You can call me Steve, or you can call me Mr. Lehto. That's fine. I'll also accept Professor. Kevly33 says Mike Ditka as opposed to dicta. That's where diction or enunciation comes into play. But I believe diction and dicta come from the same Latin root, but I could be wrong about that. Toe Twacker says we've had 100-degree F thunderstorms with rain last year. Though that's crazy. And that's got to be like tornado weather, right? Assuming you're someplace where that happens. Jonesman 08. Hi, Steve from rainy Seattle, Washington. Good to see you, my friend. Padres are still crews from Wisconsin in South Georgia cleaning debris from Helene 4 months later. Yeah, some of those cleanups take quite some time, and they're in the news for like a week, and they fall off the radar. So, Scuba Snacks says thanks for the channel. Well, thank you for watching. It wouldn't exist otherwise. Prodigal Stranger says it could be Dicta on the Ditka. Utes. Michael Johnson, good afternoon, Steve. Greetings from your friend Mike in Westland. Would you be willing to share the story you alluded to about being in court in Genesee County prior to being a lawyer? I'm not sure what you're referring to. I'm not kidding. I think you might have the wrong court because before I was an attorney, I was handling my own matters on a legal issue in Oakland County. I also handled a small claims action. I had 2 of those in Oakland County. And then I also got a couple tickets in Genesee County, but they wouldn't have been a Genesee Circuit Court. So I'm not quite sure which story you're referring to. David Zerdnansky says the Latin root is dico, which means to speak or I speak, which makes sense. Right? Right. Okay. Rana Jet, do you still practice law? Yes. Daniel Kessler, what's a ute? What's a ute? It's funnier when Fred Gwynn asks it. What's a ute? Can't do that voice. Oh, boy. Jonesman 08. It'll be interesting to see how the litigation for the recent commercial plane crashes play out in terms of who will be found liable. Well, I actually had a discussion with someone I know who's a pilot. We had a discussion about the one in Canada. Okay, so it happened in Canada. And of course, that plane inverted, as they say, after coming down. And everybody got off without getting seriously injured. There were no fatalities, let's put it that way. And the airline has apparently offered every single person, here's $30,000 if you want to just take the money and run. And I was discussing it with a friend of mine, and my friend goes, I would take it because I'm not going to sue him. I walked away from the plane crash. And I said the same thing. I'd take the 30 grand and say, thank you. I wouldn't, I don't know. That's just me though. I don't blame anybody else. They can do what they want to do, but there you go. Rain Byrne points out that ute is also Australian for an RV, which I'm guessing is short for utility something or other. Serial 0411 says, what do you think about the scene in the movie Elysium, where the robot parole officer. I've not seen the movie. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Sorry. Jones man says the 30K is no strings attached. Really? What kind of business are they running there? I assumed the 30 grand was to waive your lawsuit. But okay, whatever. Dan Boyd says $30,000 could equal a Corvette. Have you priced them lately? Or are you talking about a lightly used one from about 30 years ago? So John Zablak says that would be Toronto, to be concise. Yeah, but I just said Canada to make it more general, you know. Optimal opinion says Ute is a slang term derived from youth, commonly used in Jamaican patois and Caribbean English to refer to a younger person, often a friend or someone younger, and also is used by somebody with a heavy Jersey accent in a funny movie. Okay. I don't think there's any Caribbean English happening there. Bernadine Sackinger says, I take the 30, but they pay the taxes. I do not believe that's taxable in answer to your implied question, MHOH's question. Generally speaking, if you get money in a settlement like that, generally speaking, and I'm not giving you legal advice because you ain't my client, but if you're given compensation like that, it's not considered income. Consult your tax advisor. Yeah, Padre says Ute is short for sport utility vehicle, and that's what I was thinking is the utility part. Dan in the Outback now is arguing with the other guy. So I'm sorry. If I read somebody making a statement and I don't know whether it's true or not, I apologize. Taco Cat says, please end your live stream on time as I have places to be. Well, here's what I'm going to do at exactly 3 o'clock. I'm going to say, okay, we're all out of here. And then I'll lean back and go, you guys still here? Okay, Taco Cat's gone. Let's talk about Taco Cat. Oh. Pumpkin Eddie says only in California is it taxable. Stephen T. Hello, Steve, from Steve in Oklahoma. It's a lot of Steves in one sentence. Daniel Kester is a CRL in the Canadian Robot Lady. I do not believe she'll be here today, and I apologize for that. I should have double checked with her. I think she might have things to do today. Dan the Outback says, I am Australian. It's a truck. Yeah, I think somebody else claimed to be Australian, though, but who knows? Alexander Gunaka says, I just dodged a mob. I had to grab some stuff at Walmart, went in there, and as I hit the receipt checker, the store lost power with perfect weather outside, which I assume means one, it was unexpected, you lost power, and two, if you wanted to, you just grab the stuff and run. But I assume you didn't. Jonesman08 says, I served in the care team for a commercial airline. We got deployed at the drop of a hat as there's a major incident. They go over all the odds and ends in training. It's fascinating. You know, I believe you, and obviously I know who you are. Jonesman08 is the one who I call when I have trouble with my airline. It's only happened a couple of times in the last couple of years. But if I got a question about an airline, I call. And I've gotten some very good help. And quite frankly, there's one thing he did for me. I'm not even sure how he did it, but hey, there you go. True S Armor, what was your first case? What was your biggest case? My first case, believe it or not, the first jury trial I ever did was involving some dealership fraud in Royal Oak, Michigan. And believe it or not, during the trial, you could look out the window and see the dealership. It's a long time ago. I drove by that courthouse just a couple days ago. It's kind of funny. George Blake, are you an amateur radio operator? No, I am not. A lot of people ask me about that because I've got a lot of people in the audience who send in stuff. But the microphones on my set are an homage to my time in radio. I worked in professional radio as a radio disc jockey or announcer and also as a talk show host. So Dan in the Outback says, it annoys me hearing Americans calling Utes a truck. I yell at the screen and say, that's not a truck, that's a Ute. Does that happen often that Americans are talking about that? I was unaware. Um, Doug Jones, if you take your car in for repairs and you signed approving them to perform the repairs, and it did not show the boilerplate condition on the back of the form, can you be held to those? That's a contractual law issue. Depends on what state you're in, and you might not even be in the states for all I know. I think you might be in Canada. But generally speaking, if your car gets damaged while in their possession, it's on them. They'll often try to tell you it's not, but your insurance company should be able to figure that out pretty quickly. But like in Michigan, for instance, the Garage Keeper Liability Act, while they've got your car in their possession, they are on the hook for it. So MH08 also points out that Ute is an American Indian tribe in southwest Colorado and southeast Utah. Which might actually, isn't that also possibly part of the derivation of the word Utah? I could be wrong. Jay McCarthy, hi, Steve. Brown Eyed Girl 83, what's been the most obscure law that you've used to succeed in court for a client? The idea about obscure laws being pulled out in court doesn't happen very often. I know that that's a Hollywood thing, but what's amazing is how often the judges act like the laws are obscure. I've been in court before talking about the Uniform Commercial Code, and I've got a judge looking back at me, and their eyes may as well have just been spun up into the top of their head. They had no idea what I was talking about. And I'm like, this is the law. UCC 2313 is MCL 440.2313. You can look it up. I'm not making this stuff up. And I've had judges like, well, I've never looked at the Uniform Commercial Code before. When did that? Yeah, it's been in the books for a while. LRG, I've got a D104 lollipop left over from my children's band radio days. Yeah, I've got a lollipop up there too, not far from my ribbon mic and my big old Shure. I love that big Shure, the big aluminum case on it. Don't think it works. Bought it at a garage sale years ago, but it's still pretty cool. Don Store One, good morning. Finally got up early enough to jump on live. Jones Man 08, do you like using fancy words and filings or in court like heretofore or germane? What does your dad do? Who is your daddy? What does he do? No, I'm joking. I know that his father is actually an attorney. No, I don't like using fancy words. There's a huge push towards plain English in pleadings. Now, pleadings, like the actual lawsuits, the complaints themselves, often do contain legalese because it's required. But when you're talking, especially to a jury, you do not use prior or subsequent. It's before and after. And in like briefs that are arguments to the court, you don't use the legalese unless it's necessary. And so that's a very serious thing that people have gotten away from. I mean, they used to use 8.5 by 14 paper. The legal paper, that was papers longer. And I remember hearing about the time that they switched over and told people stop filing long paper, and people kept filing long paper for a little while. So radicals aren't all statutes fundamentally based on the UCC. No, the Uniform Commercial Code is relatively new as far as laws go, and it generally governs commercial transactions. I know people like to argue about that, but that's what it covers. And so the UCC actually doesn't play into 99% of the cases that are brought in court. And so other statutes aren't based on it. In Michigan, there's simply a section of our code that contains the UCC, but that's it. So 90 knots. Hello, Steve and everyone. Serial 0411. I'm from Ionia. You mean like Ionia, Michigan? It's an actual town. Yes, it is. There's a radio station there. WION. WION. Martin Godinez. Hi, Steve. Los Angeles here, 70 degrees. Ron Wade, on or about? Well, that's actually one that you'll still see, only because it would be a shame to have your lawsuit kicked out because you got the date off by one day or something. And so they've accepted that as proper pleading, at least in the civil side. Criminal side, that might not work. That might not work depending on the case. So, Tom Wilson, are you going to the Hilton Head for the Concours d'Elegance this year? Did they already have that, or is that coming up? But no, I don't think so. Michael Johnson, are you allowed to use the evidence or results from one lemon law case as evidence in another? Generally, not really, because each case is different. But obviously, if a case goes up on appeal, you can use that as precedent. So, Serial 0411 says, "What do you think about all the cars being sold without titles in Michigan?" I'm not familiar with that. A problem? Is that a problem? I mean, I did not know that. Yeah, I've no one's asked me or told me there's a problem with that in Michigan, so I don't know. JP is checking from sunny and warmish Columbia, South Carolina. You'll recall that I believe it was last week where he was someplace not sunny nor warm, but tasting craft beer, which probably made up for the difference. Sub GR77 checking from Davison, Michigan. Davison, Michigan, where there's a brighter shade of grayish. It's like a hazy shade of winter. Oh. Mrs. Teresa, 1999, says Lubec, Maine is a cross from Campobello Island, New Brunswick, where President Roosevelt's summer cottage is. It's so big, I don't know how they call it a cottage. Oh no, you have to understand, the rich often call things like, oh, that's a cottage and that's a pond, when in reality it's a mansion on a lake. Okay. But they do that so that the riffraff don't get too upset. Oh, isn't that quaint? The president's going to his cottage, the cottage. Rich Brooks says that part of the UCC important to consumers deals with product warranties. That's Article 2, generally speaking, because Article 2 deals with sales. So 2313, 2314, 2312, and so on. Many great tips in that section. And for those who don't know, the Uniform Commercial Code is a very interesting statute because it was drafted by experts as a model law, and then most states accepted it and enacted it primarily verbatim, but with minor changes. And they also wrote comments to the various sections. So if you want to know how they meant it to be interpreted, because most statutes don't come with instructions, and the UCC does. So always look at the comments beneath the UCC before you think that you're done looking at that section. So there you go. JP says, I've been to a brewery in Lubec. He's telling you that, Mrs. Teresa. Make sure you saw that. Daniel Kester, I sent you an HOA question via email. I will check that out. Jeff, 1618, ever gone to Coachella? No, I have not. Coachella is one I wouldn't mind going to. And of course, Glastonbury, I'd love to go to. The real question is, how much standing around do I want to do between sets and so on? So, mad at work, and they force you into a civil suit and then go around and use that discovery in a criminal trial. I'm not sure how that would work, if that would be a thing. I've never actually had somebody in a civil suit that I was using that could have turned into a criminal action, but it's an interesting question. James Knudsen, hi Steve, or hello Steve. Jones, man, has anyone ever tried to argue about the lemon law and you've gotten to say, I literally wrote the book? No, I've never used that. But I have cited cases where I was trial counsel, and I'm always hoping when they look at the case, they go, oh, attorney for the plaintiffs. Oh, Steve Lehto. Oh, it's that guy. It's that guy. Ember Miss 69, I believe you've mentioned this before. When one has a lemon law claim, yet one buys across the state line, which state law takes precedent in the court system? That depends on the state. So in Michigan, you can file a lawsuit here if you bought the car here, or if you live here and bought it somewhere else. So you're covered either way. There are some states that have variations on these, and I've seen one before where somebody who buys a car in the other state but lives here can't file a claim in either state. And I've seen that taken up on appeal, and the Court of Appeals just says, the legislature, That's how they pass the law. That's how they pass the law. They can fix it if they want to, but as of right now, that's the way the law is. James Knudsen, I love your show. Watching it from Northwest Lower Michigan. Now, where would that be? Would that be Traverse City? Would that be Sheboygan? Just curious. Just curious. JP says, I once sold a truck to a guy in Denmark. You mean the truck left America and went to Denmark? Oh, okay. Michael Johnson, looking forward to the Detroit Autorama. The Autorama is coming up. It's not that far off. It's coming up this upcoming weekend at Cobo Hall. And I will be there. I'm just not sure which day I'll be there, but I'll definitely be there one day. I love that. I love that show. I've gone to the last 3 or 4 in a row. So Roxon, Coachella sounds fun. Yeah, the only problem I've got with Coachella is it's turned into this big influencer thing where all these young ladies dress provocatively and then get off towards the edge and they take selfies. See, and it's more about getting your picture taken there than it is about actually hearing some music. But I've looked at the band lists and I'm like, I wouldn't mind seeing them, but we'll see how it goes. William Gangloff says, hey, sold an 89 Caprice to a Kuwaiti. He wasn't interested in the title. You think he'd want it for just trivia, just a little souvenir, keepsake? Oh. Fast Eddie 333. What do you think would be more interesting, going to a dinner party with a group of lawyers or going to a dinner party with a group of doctors? I personally, that depends. I can see either one. I'd love to go to a group of lawyers and just start asking questions like, tell me about some interesting cases. But I do the same thing with doctors because doctors see all kinds of crazy stuff too, right? Taco Cat, please consider this as a retainer for future legal advice. Yes, Taco Cat. If you are ever in Michigan and you need legal advice regarding Michigan, you can contact me and say, hey, Steve, this is Taco Cat. I once gave you $5. Therefore, I need $5 worth of legal advice. And I'm going to say, well, we've been on the phone now for $6 worth of time. Oh, boy. Alexander Ganakis, Coachella is perfect if you camp. Yeah, I'm not sure if 2 or 3 days of camping go along with 2 or 3 days of standing around. Oh, I don't know if I'll ever reach the point where I'll be able to actually just contact some people and go, look, I'm rich. Let me stand on stage. I don't want to play an instrument. I just want to stand off to the side. Because there's people who get to do that. They just have connections, right? Alexander says, yeah, but you can go back to your camp in between sets. Okay. Kilikaku Coat is having a discussion with the prodigal stranger, talking about the executive and whether or not the governor or the president can offer pardons or commutations. And a lot of people don't understand this aspect, which I'll get into just very briefly here, is that there are state laws and there's federal laws, okay? And so if you get arrested and charged and convicted in a state court of a state law, that's one thing. If you get arrested and convicted and all that stuff of a federal law, that's another thing. So bank robbery, federal. Drunk driving, state. Generally speaking, okay? And so if it's a state conviction, most states do grant the governor pardon powers. Whereas federal, of course, the Constitution gives the president pardon powers. But that's why the president can't pardon somebody for a state violation and vice versa. So there you go. It jumped on me. So it happens when I take too long to answer a question. Let's go to the bottom and try to stand top. Lance Carp, any raccoon or woodchuck sightings? I saw 4 deer yesterday in my backyard. They hadn't been around for a couple days. And then I also saw a group of turkeys. And these aren't baby turkeys. This is still too early. Big, fat turkeys. I saw 4 or 5 of them go waddling by. So the wildlife's coming out because it's warming up a little bit. Marcus Alport, Steve, you appear to be left-handed. I'm not sure how that could be. I don't do a whole lot on camera, but I'm wearing the watch on the left arm, so you might guess I'm right-handed because I am. But anyways. Oh, boy. John Zabelek, does anybody go bowling anymore? We once had over 10 bowling alleys in the Utica area. Now we've got Vista Lanes in Yorkville and Pins in the mall. Bowling's not what it used to be in terms of popularity. I haven't bowled in 30 years. Oh boy. Jeff 1618, what watch are you wearing? Don't want to get into a heavy discussion on the watch. We've done that before, but it's a Breitling Navitimer. Breitling Navitimer. I've had it for 20, 25 years, something like that. Mark Miller, are wild turkeys good eating? I've heard they're good drinking, but I've also known people who go turkey hunting. I don't hunt anything on my property. I'll chase a woodchuck for a few minutes, but Andy, New York 29 says turkeys do not waddle, they strut. You need to see these ones as they waddled by. They were waddling. Mind bend photos. Okay. See, you can't blame me for showing you pictures if people ask for them, can you? So I'll just show you one. There's a deer strutting across my backyard. One of four. Okay. They were spread out like they were actually defensively, in case they came under fire or something. They were spread out. I couldn't get all four of them in one shot. So Mustang MGO5 says Washington Lanes in Bay City stays pretty busy. Okay. D Red says when I try to go bowling, the lanes are full of league bowlers. I could see that too. Boomer says there's only one edible part on a wild turkey, and that's the breast. I assume that's because since they're not farm raised, they tend to get more exercise and somehow they don't fatten up correctly. Lance Carp says you can always use Acme products for pest control. Problem is, all the Acme products ever do is harm the coyote, and I've got a couple of them too. Oh, hold on, it jumped on me again. Marcus Alports is a great watch. Yes, that's why I said left-handed. I'd make a terrible lawyer. Now, I've met people who say they like to wear the watch in their dominant hand, but generally speaking, I think most people wear their watches on their non-dominant hand. But nowadays, who knows? Terry G, I can't say, but the way you explain the law involved in your story is very clear and enjoyable. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Bill Krebs says bowling was popular when socializing in person with people was more popular. Yes. If you're an introvert and you really don't like people, you might not want to go bowling all that much. Two Left Thumb says, I always thought turkeys trotted. They do when they pick up the pace. Yeah. The turkey trot's a common name for a race around Thanksgiving time. Jim Naden, one of the more dangerous animals to hit with your car is a flying wild turkey. I saw a turkey that was hit by a car, I'm guessing shortly before I saw it, because I drove down a road and I came back and it was on the side of the road, dead. And I suspect it probably did some damage to the car that hit it. So John Zablak says wild turkeys have too many feathers to deal with and are gamey. Well, they're a game bird. Shouldn't they be gamey? that works. John 2000L, keep up the great work, Steve. You are making a significant difference in the legal community and is dearly needed. Well, I appreciate that. I have to tell you, this I get asked occasionally. People say, "Hey, Steve, do many attorneys watch you?" And I get notes from attorneys, but the funniest part that I have to call out here is I get a lot of notes from people who tell me I've got the law wrong. They go, "Hey, dude, you explain the law completely wrong. You got this wrong. You got that." And I always politely say, well, in what state are you practicing? Because maybe it's a difference between states. They go, well, I'm not an attorney. And so whenever I talk to an attorney who's talking to me, generally speaking, about my channel, I'll say, by the way, have you seen me say anything that you thought was like out of line or crazy or incorrect? And the attorneys always go, no. Because a lot of times I'll summarize something, but they understand why I'm doing it. I can't go off on a 15-minute tangent on some subpart of unjust enrichment or something, which I talked about in today's video. So I really do appreciate, though. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So good citizen, pineapple on pizza. I had pineapple on pizza on Friday, which I'll talk about a little later on, just in case, because I'm waiting to see if someone shows up. Gilbert says she was on a drinking team that had a bowling problem. It's like St. Ignace that they say they drink a lot with a fishing problem. Oh, boy. MH08, how about pineapple on turkey? I'm not even sure. You ever get turkey on a pizza? Never heard of that. You can get ham and pepperoni, that kind of thing. Brian Kennedy, I'm not an attorney, but I play one on the internet. Oh, boy. Hate Hornets, I recently test drove a used car and I found out after that several parts were going bad. What would have happened if something happened? Who would be liable? Well, it depends on who owns the car, what state you're in. But like if you were in Michigan, for instance, you'd probably be looking at the person who owned the car and hope they had insurance. But that can get messy too, because then you got to prove that the problem was the fault of defective parts and so on. So there you go. Mark Miller, what style pizza? The pizza was eaten at Buddy's Pizza. Buddy's Pizza, and it was eaten at the original Buddy's in Detroit. So, John Zablek, are wild turkey vultures tasty? They don't look tasty, I'll tell you right now. Turkey vultures, I've got some around here. I don't know where they nest, but they're around here. I see them all the time. Birds with a gigantic wingspan, and if you see them on the ground, like picking at something, they're about this tall, and they're scary looking. They're they're not as how do I say this? They're not as graceful or um, noble looking as like an eagle or a hawk. They're scary looking. That's so. MHO, bring back bowling for dollars. I think we talked about that a couple weeks ago. Bowling for dollars. Fast Eddie 333. My mother was on Bowling for Dollars in Rochester, New York. She got a spare. Did you get anything for that? I seem to recall it was a low dollar game show, but because it involved locals, people would watch it. You know? David Zaranansky says he got kicked out of the YMCA for thinking a kickboxing for women was like bowling for dollars. Stormtrooper 88, like gargoyles. Are you talking about the way a turkey vulture looks? That's one good description of them. Johnny Z. Bradley says those are WMMS buzzards, not turkeys. Yeah, I never quite understood. Is there an actual distinction between a buzzard versus a turkey vulture? Or is that what they call them locally in Ohio? Yeah, they sound like turkey vultures. Okay. Ian Gotti, what is your Words with Friends username? I don't do Words with Friends. I've known people who did, but I don't do Words with Friends. I haven't played Scrabble in a long time either, so. Dead beef, if I were charged with a crime and the judge assigned public defender Lehto to represent me, would I be happy or should I be happy or terrified? Well, I've mentioned before I was a public defender for a couple of years, and I handled a lot of cases of a variety of natures. And I've had people go, "You don't know anything about criminal law because you're just a lemon law attorney." And I go, "Okay, well, where'd you go to law school?" "Oh, I didn't." "So you think you know more about the law than a lemon law lawyer?" Yeah, because you don't know anything about criminal law. Okay, to go through law school and to take the bar exam, you have to study criminal law and con law and criminal procedure and all the things that that, right? Well, yeah, but you don't know any of that. I passed all the classes and I passed the bar. What do you mean? And so the fact I've chosen to narrow my practice doesn't mean I've purged my brain of everything else. And so I would say you're a lucky person because not only would I do a good job for you, but we'd have fun talking out in the hallway. Dan in the Outback one, have you ever been to Australia? No, not yet. I want to go to Australia. I need to go to New Zealand also. So, optimal opinion. Anyone get the chair? Are we talking about the chair that came off my set? I'm coming up with an idea. I'm fabricating an idea right now. I'm convoluting an idea in my head right now about something constructive I can do with the chair. And I'm going to do it on a live stream. I'm just not going to announce it just yet. But I will do something cool with the chair that'll involve a lot of people, and a lot of people can play along and it'll be enjoyable, and it'll probably benefit some kind of charity. So there you go. Brian Seltz says 4 or 5 states now no longer require law school to take the bar in their states. Many of them have gone to some other thing where you can apprentice or clerk or something. I'll be curious to see how that plays out. California has allowed you to get around to taking a law school class program at an accredited law school. But my understanding is it's extremely difficult, and not a lot of people do it that way. It's actually easier to go to law school, more expensive, but easier. Oh, I'm sorry. Optimal pain is referring to the electric chair, like you'll get the chair. I got it. Okay, sorry. You have to remember, I'm in a state that hasn't had the death penalty since like the 1840s, 1830s, something like that. So, oh boy, Tom Tuttle, chair itty, as well as Aaron Freeman. We may have to call it that. I got in an argument with somebody recently about the death penalty in Michigan. And I'm like, we haven't had it for state law forever. And there have only been like 2 or 3 executions, and they're always for federal law violations in federal court. Dan in the Outback once, many of my friends have been to New Zealand, and every single one declared NZ as their best holiday. Yeah, and I purposely clarified that I want to go to Australia and New Zealand, and I understand they're not the same because a lot of people speak of them in the same breath as if, like, I'm going to go to Australia or New Zealand, one of the, and they're very, very, I understand they're very, very different. They're different countries, different cultures. There's a common language dividing them the same way there is between the US and England. But I like to get to both. So Alexander Ganakis says, I have 3 lawyers in my phone for different situations. That's an interesting question. If somebody had asked it, but nobody did. But let's go through here. Hang on a second. Okay, I got one attorney, 1 doctor, 2 attorneys. Hang on a second. 3 attorneys, 4 attorneys, 5 attorneys. 6 attorneys, 7 attorneys. Hang on. I'm only the letter C. 8 attorneys, 9 attorneys, 10. Ooh. My dad. Hang on a second. He's not an attorney. Okay, just through C, I've got about a dozen attorneys. So yeah, I got a lot of attorneys. But I can get very specialized with who I call, and I get in trouble. Daniel Kester like to visit the Great Barrier Reef. Yeah, that's one of those things that everyone who goes has got to go see. It's just like you've heard of it. It's huge. You can see it from space. Why not go look at it? So Mark Miller, my nephew, was required to study outside the U.S. as part of his schooling, and he chose Auckland, and he said it was great. Cool. Yeah, I've got friends in New Zealand I've never met. Oh boy. 90 knots, I've got a lot of attorney contacts into my phone, but most are past or current coworkers. And in my case, most of them are acquaintances or people I deal with a lot who happen to be attorneys simply because we travel in the same circles. So Taco Cat asks, do you prefer Helga or Hilda on Hogan's Heroes? I forgot which one was which. It's been a while. I know it's on in the evenings right after. It used to be right on after Green Acres. They changed it around a little bit, but it's hard to say. It's been a while. Lion Zookeeper, your personal lawyers are just friends. Well, a couple of them are people I have hired. So blah 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 wants to know, do they have Utes in New Zealand? And I think they call them that over there. I could be wrong. Someone can check and let us know that. Padre, please settle a disagreement. Is the $100 bill real or fake? Who would disagree with that? It's real. Josh Holman says, yes, they've got Utes in New Zealand. Harry Selden says the Grand Canyon is another place that just isn't done justice by pictures. That is true as well. Mark Miller. I just watched Devil's Advocate on TV this week. Thoughts on that movie? I actually kind of liked it. The ending is really weird, though. The ending is really weird. But that, of course, is it Keanu Reeves, Al Pacino, and Al Pacino is the senior partner at a law firm of very, very well, maybe Lucifer, Beelzebub, and Keanu Reeves is the new hire. But like I said, it gets really, really weird at the end. Rocks, and I never thought it would be fake. I'm not sure why people would think that. Although people occasionally, I don't know. Padre said I said it was real, and a friend said it was a movie bill. Well, funny you should say that. And I'm breaking my own rules here. I'm taking off my headphones. But underneath, come on, underneath the light there that was given by my friend who's passed away now, I do have a stack of movie bills that someone did give me. And so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I had 10, but I gave 2 away. I didn't pass them, I gave them away. But these say right on them for motion picture purposes. And they also feel funny. They're plastic coated. Although I had a friend of mine tell me that at the store she worked at, one of her coworkers accepted one the other day, and now they're out $100. But what are you going to do? So Mark Miller is the paper similar. No, it's not. That's the main reason. It's prop money. Johnny Z. Bradley points out. Kelikaku Coton, what do you think about them opening up Fort Knox? My understanding is that Fort Knox gets audited periodically. So if I had to bet money on it, I'd bet that they're going to find that it's filled with gold. But hey, you never know. You never know. Abe Mauricio ever fired a client? Yes, I have. I've told the story. Jimmy Baller, it's not a hundo. The one in the set is real. I had somebody come in. I've told the story before, but I don't know where. I had a woman come into my office and she had a problem, and I'm not gonna say what it is, but it was not a lemon law problem, but it was a consumer problem. She bought a product that was, she thought, defective. And I thought she was correct in that, but she wanted way more money than she's entitled to. And I said, look, the good news is we can win. The bad news is you're not going to get $1 million in a ham sandwich. You're just going to get what you're entitled to. She goes, okay, fine. And so she signed a retainer agreement saying she's hiring me. And I told her tomorrow I'll file the lawsuit. We'll get this thing going. And I come in the morning and my lights flashing at me, and I listen to the message, and she goes, hey, Steve, this is I was in there yesterday or earlier today. And I've changed my mind. I do not want to hire you. I do not want to hire you. Do not file the lawsuit. I'm going to come by your office, pick up my stuff. Do not take any action. So I said, okay. She came by, picked up her stuff, and left. And about a month later, she called my office again about 2:00 in the morning, crying. I don't know how you did this, but every attorney I call tells me to call you. Oh boy. So Andy New York 29 says I found a $100 bill in a park recently. Thought it was fake, but it was real. I found a 20. I was mountain biking on a dirt road near my house, and I looked down. I saw the flash of green, and trust me, this kind of green stands out amongst the dirt by the side of the road. $20 bill, just crunched up, laying by the side of the road. I how it got there, I don't know. It was nowhere near any place people would walk. So, David Persons, what's the best legal movie you've seen or know about? I get asked that about once every other episode. Anatomy of a Murder. I'll stay by that one. Oscar Love. So help me out. Federal employee here. Haven't gotten an email yet. Supposed to. Protected, but things seem to change daily. Any legal options? I can't even weigh in on that because I'm not even sure what the conditions are of your employment. And that's the question because it depends on what your job title is, what your position is, and whether or not you're unionized, because there are some union federal positions that have special rules on them. And so I wouldn't even know where to begin with that. I suspect that there are attorneys who specialize in employment law who know all about how federal law interacts with your employment. And so, whatever state you're in, or if you're in DC, look for a local attorney who does employment law. And there are people who specialize in that, and they can answer that question. Right about now, it's the thing they're being asked every single day. Bob Blah Blah says, I love the video you made with the $100 bill bouncing around on the end of a fishing pole. Bob, I don't think that video is still up anymore because I have not heard about that or thought about that in the longest time. If it's still up, please, somebody let me know. But I thought like 5 years ago or 4 years ago, I ran out of places to put the $100 bill. So I had somebody stand behind the camera, and about 5 minutes into the video, just bounced the $100 bill behind my head a couple times. And then I pretended like I didn't see it. And at the time, people thought it was funny, but you never know. Padres says, my father-in-law once found a $100 bill in a cigarette pack while cleaning up a bar. Yeah, I've seen people who put things inside cigarette packs, and the cigarette pack is handy, you know? So Dan in the Outback says, I found $450 on the ground at school when I was 6 years old. I gave it to school and no one claimed it. So they gave it back to me 2 weeks later. 6 years old with almost $500. Oh my gosh. Randy Bolt, must you accept papers being served? That is an interesting way, but a question, but the way you phrased it is incorrect. If you've been served, can you unserve yourself or refuse the service? And it's not something you have to accept. So if I walk up to you and go, "You're served," and you just stand there, I can drop the papers on the ground and walk away. You're served. You know. So Jerry DeMoss, why are you wearing earphones? I'm talking into a microphone, and the way I can tell if the microphone's picking up what I'm saying is that I've got the earphones on. Same reason disc jockeys wear headphones. By the way, I've got a really good set of AKG K240s right there, which I had to break out the other day because I was doing some really, really intense editing. Oh. Dan Boyd, yeah, it's like trying to unsend an email. Oh, Mark Miller, back during paper drives, found a box of Penthouse magazines. Oh, the good old days. Bill Thomas, I saw someone find a large roll of cash in a thrift store jacket. Made me wonder if they buy the jacket, do they legally own the money in the pocket? And that's an interesting question because I would say yes. You bought the jacket and the contents therein. If the thrift store didn't want to sell you what was in the pockets, they should have checked the pockets. Bigger question is if the person who dropped it off knew there was cash in there. And some people have claimed, I've seen this argument get made, that they, for instance, they bought like one of big old chest of drawers, and inside of it they found a compartment that had cash in it. And if you track down the owner goes, "Oh, that was my father's, and I was just cleaning it out. I didn't know there was money in there." And they can try to make the argument that it wasn't abandoned property because they didn't know it was there. It was a mistake. That will vary wildly from state to state. Okay. My answer to you as a non-attorney is if you found the money in the pocket of the jacket, how did anybody else find out? You've already made mistake number one by letting somebody know. David P., what mic are you using? It is the same mic that you see over my shoulder right there. Hold on. Right there. This is an Electro Voice RE20. You'll see people using, there's not as many on YouTube as you'll see them being used in radio stations. A lot of disc jockeys use these radio stations. You'll see a lot of people online using Shure SM7s, which is not a bad microphone either for human voice. I personally like the RE20 myself. I worked with these at 8 or 9 different radio stations. So there you go. Steve Lehto, are you mind bent? If I deny that, would that stop the service? Why would it? I'm required to serve the person, not the person who admits to being the person. Jerry DeMosk and the YouTube diagnostics tell if people mute the audio. That's a question I don't know the answer to. I do not know. They can show all kinds of other stuff, but that's not one. Hate Hornets, how do you track down someone to serve papers? Alternative question, if I'm served and my order's wrong, can I give it back? You mean like at a restaurant? Yeah, send the subpoena back and say it's well done. Um, Tracking someone down is the tricky part, but it depends. Many of my cases, I'm suing companies, so I can serve a resident agent, and resident agents are required to accept service. What's harder is to serve an individual who doesn't want to get served. And if they hide too much, and you know where they live, you can get alternate service. That's real easy. So, Drew Dastardly, why did we as a kid always find nudie mags in the woods? I think that's because other kids hid them there for fear of what would happen if they brought them home. Zimbo1212, are you not an influencer? It's hard to say. It's hard to say. Melissa Thompson, have you ever defended someone who deep down you felt they were guilty? Well, I don't do much criminal work anymore. And I will tell you right now that the cases I had where people went to trial, where we actually said we're not taking any deals, we're going to trial. Um, every single one of them I thought was not guilty. Okay, and meaning that I didn't think they deserved to be convicted. So, Michael GW Frog, how many radio stations did you work for, and for how long? Um, where I was on the air. One, two, three, four, five, six, uh, seven, eight, nine or ten. Nine or ten. I was on a couple of them for a few years. I worked did a couple where I was just a weekend guy, like a weekend talk show. Um, and it just depends. I mean, my first job in radio, I worked at a small market country station, and worked 6 days a week for a year and a half straight. So there you go. Harry Seldon, have you ever heard of papers being served to the wrong person? I've heard of bad service before, but it's usually where somebody comes by and knocks on the door of a house and goes, "Hey, does Bob Johnson live here?" And the person goes, "No." The guy goes, "Well, I think he does." Boom. Well, unless that person you're handing the papers to is Bob Johnson, that's not good service. And so I've seen some proofs of service get filed, which is we served an adult male who looked like this, blah, blah, blah. It's like, judge is like, oh, is that him or not? So, but I don't get that heavily into it. Harley D says a 69 Charger you sold for $300 would probably be worth $60,000 to $80,000 now. If you put about $55,000 to $75,000 worth of work into it, yes. It had about 3 gallons of Bondo in the rear quarters. The trunk was rusting through. The unibody was rusting through. When I got rid of it, if you open the door up, the door would drop an inch because where the hinge is attached to the door frame had rusted through. Michigan, the car was 12 or 13 years old by that time, and it was simply a matter of nature taking its course. So, but as a cool car, and I might get another Charger someday, but unfortunately, that one does not still exist. So there you go. Mark Miller asks if being a DJ is a transient position. Being a disc jockey is very similar to being a gypsy, except with less job security. I've known so many disc jockeys who worked in different markets over and over and over, just constantly changing markets. And a good friend of mine named Bob Odell, who's not on the air anymore as far as I know. Last I heard of him, he was on a radio station in Arizona, but he worked in Georgia, Mississippi, Michigan, and I'd get a postcard from him every Christmas from a different state. And I always felt really sorry for him. He's always doing really well. So Matthias F. Lou. Hello. Greetings from Berlin. Thank you for checking in, my friend. I appreciate that. Dan Boyd, I put a lot of Bondo in cars. I didn't do the work myself. My brother did. He was good. He was like a Michelangelo with Bondo, but he also was really, really good with a DeVilbiss, a gun, a paint gun, So D Wood, Harry Chapin, WOLD. Yeah, Sub GR77 says my charger probably does still exist, having been recycled into a refrigerator body. Very well. John Zablak, motor engine rusted through. Believe it or not, I've seen vehicles come into a gas station before where the dipstick tube had rusted off. So if you're driving in the wintertime and salt is splashing up there, it can cause damage to parts of the engine. So blah, blah, blah. Do you remember seeing a broken down car every mile in the old days? There were times you're on the freeway headed north, for instance. Dan Boyd, oil pans and differential covers. Yeah, and those are obviously quite exposed to things on the road. So there you go. Lewis Browning says in Michigan there are winter cars and summer cars. So as I've pointed out, I have two Ford Explorers. One's a 2024 and one's a 2002. And my 02 came from Florida. So its frame is immaculate. And the body's in good shape too. And so that's my beater. That's my beater car. I drive that when I got to go down dirt roads or if it's bad out. But I drive the brand new one if I need to go someplace important, that kind of thing. But generally speaking, a lot of people I know do actually have the winter car and the summer car. So Mark Miller, duct tape fixes everything. Yeah. Victor Sauvage, still not ready to go into politics? No, thanks. No, thanks. Oh, John 2000L, DeVilbiss. Had not heard that name in years. Yeah, DeVilbiss spray gun. Gilbert, I used to drive a Jeep that had plywood floorboards. Oh, boy. Bill Thomas, remember dodging more car parts on the road in the old days. I remember, this is about I can tell you what car I was driving. This is about 1991 or 92. I just gotten out of law school. Was just starting to practice law. I was driving to court one day, and I'm driving on Square Lake Road, for those of you who are interested, and a car in front of me ran over a broken piece of a leaf spring. I recognized it because it bounced up in front of me. Piece of a leaf spring about that big. If it hit my windshield, it would have taken my windshield out. And it bounced down, and I sped up, and I heard it go clunk underneath my car and then pop up behind my car. And I remember I pulled over at the gas station at the next corner, and I was looking, and I got lucky. It just happened to hit something underneath that didn't harm anything. It was a piece of a leaf spring off a car or truck. I don't know where it came from. But you drive over something like that, and you're like, you hope it doesn't hurt down there, So Beata Graf av Dalhagen, also the gods must be crazy. Are we having a discussion about movies without me? That's a good movie. I like that movie. It's one of those high concept movies. I can explain it to you in 30 seconds. You're going, wow, what a cool idea. And then I think they did a follow-up that didn't do as well. Whoa. Ember Miss 69, without going down a rabbit hole, what changes would you like to see have legal-wise? I'd like to see them fix the two laws that the Michigan Supreme Court screwed up, and that is the Consumer Protection Act and the Motor Vehicle Service Repair Act, where they said it's okay to charge somebody for a tire rotation so long as you started the job. And they also said the Consumer Protection Act doesn't actually apply to consumers. So I'd like to see that get fixed. And I'm trying to think what else. I'd like to see the chicken bone case, boneless chicken, out of Ohio get fixed. I might have some news on that one coming up. Hey, Jones Man 08 says, I like the new thumbnails. Thank you. That's not actually the controversy I thought it was going to become, but I've had a couple people. I had a guy write me a very, very, a was going to say heartfelt, but I think a better word is unhinged email about yay long explaining how much he hates them and why he hates them. And he implied that if I didn't stop using them, he's going to stop watching. I thought to myself, I wish I'd known this earlier. So Southern Torrance is that movie so did not need a sequel. No, exactly right. And the problem is that Hollywood goes, hey, it made some money. Let's make another. D. Corbett, thanks for giving us some of your time today. I appreciate it. Well, thank you. I appreciate you showing up. As I say it once in a while, but it sounds like a cliche, but it's not. If you weren't here, I'd just be a guy sitting in a room talking to himself. So the audience makes this channel, not me. So Jones Man 08 says you get the most unhinged emails. I'm not sure. I mean, for all I know, other people get them too. I got one yesterday from somebody who told me that my understanding of the law regarding pleadings, the rules of civil procedure, was wrong. Guy wasn't an attorney. He's like, you got that wrong. That's not what that means. You got that wrong. Okay. You're talking to a guy who is, besides teaching trial practice for 10 years, or pretrial practice, I took civil procedure in law school. I've filed thousands of lawsuits. And I've never had a judge go, you're doing that wrong. Roxanne says change can be hard for some people, but the new thumbnails look good. And just so you know, I mentioned that my graphic designer who designed my logo helped me with that, but she gave me more advice than I took. She thought I should get rid of the font and the color of the font, which is that orangish yellow thing. And I said, I'm not going to change that. I'm going to keep that so that there's less of a harsh shift between the one to the other. And she's like, well, I still think you're wrong. I said, no, I am wrong, but I'm more right than I was before. So, oh boy. Lion Zookeeper says I lost a muffler on the expressway years ago. Didn't notice for a few miles. I still feel bad if anything bad happened for someone. I don't know why, but that reminds me of a story. You got to read into this a little bit. But somebody I used to be related to had an uncle, and the uncle had one of those little red express pickup trucks. It's a little red pickup truck made in like 78, 79. And it had the exhaust come up behind the cabin into what looked like diesel stacks, vertical stacks. Really, really cool. And a guy restored this thing immaculately. And one of his spoiled kids said, hey, Dad, I need to borrow your pickup truck. And he goes, what for? We're going to move some stuff. And instead of saying, hey, guys, it's a pickup truck, but not really. It's a classic car. I don't want it used for that purpose. He said, well, just take care of it. And they brought it back, parked it in the driveway, said a few words, and took off. And he walked out, and one of the diesel stacks was in the bed of the truck. And it had somehow broken off while they were doing something with the truck. And he told me, he's like, yeah, it's the last time I lent that truck to anybody. Not like, dude, you lent it one time too many. I could have told you that. But people are like that. So Dan Boyd said I once ate a whole box of Thin Mints when I was 16. I think we've all been there before. John Zablack, remember the Thrush muffler? Yeah. And the ladder bars and a set of Kragers or the cherry bombs. Matthias says blue and yellow is bad combination. I'm not really using a lot of blue and yellow though, am I? I use blue and white as my logo. But Padre points out the Little Red Express was the last vehicle made in America without a catalytic converter. That could be. I know at one point in time it also had like either more powerful engine or it's something about its acceleration. It was unusual because it was a truck, but they got away with things because it was a truck. So Cody Prine, who's working on my resume right now, says Steve Lehto, attorney, car guy, author, radio man, YouTube star, Renaissance man. You can't say YouTube star. I don't have a million subs. Harley D, do you remember International Shoe? And it jumped on me. But wait, where'd it go? Where'd it go? The building is still there in St. Louis. Really? I remember the case, of course, International Shoe. It's like the Erie Doctrine. There's a few of these cases that they have you read, and you always forget that there's actually people behind them. So, when you hear about your Miranda rights, there's some guy named Miranda. They actually turned his name to a verb. Did you Mirandize that guy? Can you imagine? Did you Lehtoize that guy? What would that mean? Blah, blah, blah. Every time I land out my trailer, it comes back with dented fenders or missing lights. Yeah, see, I've got a trailer and the license plate is bent, but I bent it. I've got the right to do that. And if somebody else borrows my trailer and bends my plate, it's like, what, you're not paying attention? Of course you're not. It's not theirs. Peter Mandix is a cute girl in high school, asked me why there was a for sale sign peeking out from under the heavily rusted rear quarter of my Trans Am. I guess that may be the sucker. Well, whoever did the repair work did the sign backwards. You have the for sale facing in and the silver side facing out. Unless, was it two-sided? I guess maybe it was two-sided. Always trying to think of a way out here. Daniel Kester says, "Hey, Steve, occasionally you giggle at something you say in your videos. I'll bet you get people complaining about that. I say if you like it, keep doing it. I like you having fun." Well, yes. Every now and then, someone will comment, "Why do you laugh so much at yourself?" If you think my paper says, "Insert laugh now," dead beef being Lehtoized is renting a car from Hertz and being charged a bunch of fines by them for things you didn't do, or renting an RV. Keith Donaldson, I got a ticket to remove my thrush mufflers. They sounded phenomenal behind the 428. I'm going to tell you right now, my Cobra replica is loud. It's very loud. And I'm reasonably certain that if somebody were to test it, it would probably be too loud. But I don't know what I could do about that. So Bill Van Ram's got the glass packs on a 65 El Camino. There you go. J Max says, former Acosta here, please improve your studio lighting. You mean in my main videos? Been doing it for 10 years. I think this is the first time someone's actually suggested my studio lighting needs work. You could also ask me to improve my sound, I guess. I don't know. Aaron Freeman says that orange type is how I identify your videos. Yeah, and believe it or not, that's actually something I believe is true. I think that when you pull up videos, that a distinctive color can catch your eye or be something you remember. And I'm always annoyed. There's certain YouTube creators out there who have more viewers than I do, but they'll put up the same thing every video, and it's they're pointing at something and saying like, "Never do this," or "This is the worst thing ever," or "The end of the world," or and it's like, it must work, but I refuse. I absolutely refuse. So Dave in the Outback says, "Steve, we do want more Hertz stories. Can you arrange Hertz to do something stupid again soon?" Don't worry, they will. They will. Jones been away. Are you trying to tell me that my white balance is off? Oh, don't get me going on that. Dimebag Coin says the new thumbs work for him. Good Citizen says like, comment, share, subscribe. Help Steve get to 1 million subs. I predict I'll be there in 4 years. At the rate I'm going, I'll get 1 million subs in about 4 years. We'll see. Oh, Mexican spec. Isn't that black and gold manufacturer's plate on your set a real plate? Also wasn't 013 for Ford. Well, it was given me by somebody who said it was a replica AC Cobra, Shelby, a Shelby plate from the time period. I could be wrong, but that's what they said. Frank Jones, Scotty Kilmer is the king of clickbait titles and images. Bob Neal, your lighting is fine. I've been a still photographer from video producer and video 35 years. Thank you. John Zablak, can a person practicing law without a license get arrested? Not immediately. What would most likely happen is they would have a judge order them to stop. And if they didn't stop, they'd be in trouble for contempt of court. So, Audio Assaults is Mount Pleasant, Michigan. There you go. Kelakaku Koten, are you still in the right to repair train? Any updates on the progress? I am in favor of right to repair. It's basically boiled down to like 2 or 3 little battles that they're fighting over. In terms of John Deere is going down with this one, man. They're banking that they'll never lose this. And getting legislators to get behind this when big business is against it is, hard. Mexican Specs and Shelby was working with Ford at the time. I doubt he had his own plate. I know 015 was General Motors in California. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. I know that there were Tucker plates out of Illinois, believe it or not. And I do not have one of those. I wish I did. I'd love to have a real one, but I don't. Bob Loblaw says you can't light away a 5 o'clock shadow. You might be able to actually bring in some more diffused light that was literally like parallel where the faces of the lighting devices were parallel to your skin, but then you couldn't move, and then you have a problem. So, hey, we're all getting older, Dan Boyd, John Deere in the headlights. Andy New York says Scotty Kilmer always says he's retired or it's over. I've heard that before. I don't watch him, but I've heard that before. I had somebody tell me just the other day, he's constantly saying he's quitting. I'm quitting. Because, if I announce tomorrow, I'm quitting YouTube, it would probably get more views than anything else I've done. But then people would go, well, wait, you're not quitting? Oh, it's like the boy who cried wolf. Skylar 286, greetings from Lapeer, Michigan. Lapeer, Michigan. Love that place. Dan Boyd says, I've got a 15-day shadow, but it seems to light up with all this dang gray. And some of you people know this. Some of the viewers know this. But for a couple months there, a few years ago, I grew a beard. I went with the facial hair thing. I didn't like it. But I thought, I've never done this before. Let's just see what happens. And it grew in, and I just didn't care for it. And so, hang on a second. I always forget where stuff's on my phone. Hang on. It's not there? Wow. Okay. Let's see what's here. Oh boy, not there. There? No. Could it be there? Nope. Hang on. Boy, oh boy, I can't find it. Anyway, I had. Okay, there it is. You have to use your imagination on this. There's me with facial hair and a very short haircut, by the way. And I, I didn't care for it. Just didn't like it. About 3 days after that picture was taken, gone. And I've had people go, hey Steve, you thought about trying that again? No, it took too long, and it looks silly until it grows in a little better. So, oh, Alexander Gunaka says I smoke weed every hour legally in Chicago. Is it literally like once an hour, and otherwise it'd be illegal, or is that just a coincidence? Mexican Specs says facial hair makes him look younger. Yeah, I don't know. The problem I had was it was growing in dark, and then it had gray in it too. So that's a thing. Mark Miller says that the facial hair keeps his face warm in the winter. That could do it. Mexican Spec says you should color the beard like you color your hair. Yeah, but something, that much bleach at one time. Oh, JW, what kind of razor do you use? I actually use a little electric rechargeable thing because for me it takes 5 minutes. It's just my hair is so fine that it's not like I'm in your hacking at it with a machete or something. So Sad Tiger says you look good without it. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Oh boy. 438 people in the room, 221 thumbs ups. Come on, people, hit the like button. Says good citizen. Ram 50 V8s. I had a customer last week mention he was thinking about buying an RV. I told him to check you out. Yeah, it's really easy to remember the video. Don't buy an RV. And I actually had somebody. I saw a book in a Barnes and Noble that said RV buying for dummies, and I took a picture of the cover and I wrote chapter 1. You bought an RV, you're a dummy. And I had somebody go, Steve, that's hate speech. It's a joke. Hate speech. Who am I hating on? RV buyers? I guess. I don't know. Drew Dastardly, are those Herman Miller chairs? No. No, they're flexi spot chairs. You're talking about the one behind me and the one I'm sitting in? So. Carl's Corner, buy an RV or get married. Well, do I have to buy it brand new? And do I have to get one that's actually trouble? Like, this is like a divide by zero error. I mean, we might. I don't think my brain can come to a stop on this question. Oh, boy. Alexander Ganaka says you can always go to your interview the first day high, and they can't tell whether you're high or not from that point on. They never met you sober. That's true. Oh, boy. It's not me 07 is a bit late. He's checking in, saying hello to all of us in the crew. Thank you very much. Noah was at a car dealer with my friend who was purchasing a new car yesterday, and the dealer told him the manufacturer always supports customers in lemon law buybacks. That sentence was just said to you out loud by somebody who has gotten several thousand cars bought back by manufacturers who fought us on most of them on some level, but none of whom would have had their vehicles bought back without an attorney. So if supporting a customer means go get an attorney and come back, I guess they do. But the dealership's the ones who actually don't care. So I've actually been told more than once that someone called me because their salesman gave them my card. And yes, I've been at a dealership before overseeing a buyback. The salesman comes up and goes, "Can I have some of your cards?" Gilbert, is a fifth wheel camper as bad as an RV? Okay, I use RV as shorthand for anything that fits in the category of something you're going to camp in, travel, anything. So it could be a trailer, it could be a pop up, it could be a big old one that goes on a fifth wheel, it could be self propelled. These are all the same. They're all things that you're going to use that way that aren't covered by the Lemon Law. They're only covered by the Magnus Moss Warning Act. And many of them are not built to the same standards as you expect from, like, say, an automobile. So when people buy a camper and it leaks, and the dealership goes, well, they all leak. You didn't tell me that when I bought it. Well, you didn't ask. Wait, so if it leaks, what'll happen? We'll fix it. Okay, so I'm going to climb up on the roof, put some sealant down, hope that fixes it. But meanwhile, I got water inside my walls. Oh, no, that dried out. You're fine. You're fine. So, I mean, I've the number of stories I've got, and I haven't told them all either, by the way, of people driving home from the dealer when something went wrong with their RV. I've got too many of those to share, and everyone I know in this business does. Literally, you take the thing, you sign all the paperwork, you're indentured for life now because the thing's so expensive, and you're driving home from the dealership and something catastrophic malfunctions. Oh, well, we're busy right now. Can you take it back to manufacturer in Indiana? Indiana's not that far from Michigan. And you go, who's going to pay for that? Well, you are. Where will I stay? Oh, you can stay in your camper. A manufacturer will let you park in their parking lot and stay in your camper while you're down there waiting for them to get around to fixing your vehicle. So what do I do while they're working on it? Oh, just go and do something else. Go, I don't know, go have coffee or, explore the area. Sure, there's a lot of exciting stuff to go look at down there near the camper factory in Indiana. I tell people these stories and they're like, yeah, you're making it up. I'm like, yeah, sure. Absolute true. Felipe Fernandez Lomas says, my favorite Steve Lehto quote, if you can't get them to admit they're wrong, you just got to get them to say something stupid. I've met too many people who sit there and insist that they're right. And you just sit there and drill down. And eventually they have to say something stupid. Dan Boyd says the GMC motorhomes were 3-axle, front-wheel drive with an Olds Toronado 455/TH425 powertrain, later the 403. Yeah, and those are really cool vehicles. I know people who've had them. I've looked at them myself. They're really, really fascinating technology. But the problem in those cases, most likely, is not going to be the drivetrain. It's going to be the house. It's going to be what's on top of it. And I don't know about that. So, Tom, water in the walls. I wonder about houses that are just wooden frames during 3 or 4 weeks of downpours before they get finished. Interesting question. Depends what time of the year it's getting built, and also what kind of material the wood is. Because nowadays they got all kinds of treated wood and so on. It makes you wonder. A good citizen reminds us that Justice Thomas, Clarence Thomas, has a luxury bus / motorhome. Yeah. Mexicans expect Americans expect too much after they spend $100,000 on an RV. I once actually had a defense attorney when we were off the record tell me, my client, he goes, what'd you expect for $100,000? And my client goes, what? And he goes, yeah. He goes, the good ones are like 200,000 to 300,000. You don't get anything for $100,000. Oh, okay. It jumped on me again. Boomer says, hey, Gilbert, the fifth wheel is just as bad or worse. I've watched a few YouTubers that have lots of problems with them. Broken axles, broken springs, interior rattling, loose braking. What you need to do, and you can buy an RV, by the way. You can buy an RV and not be a fool. What you need to do is do tons and tons of research on them. Find a brand that's good, that's built well, good components, and then find one used. And you can find somebody who got one, who hated the lifestyle, and they're getting rid of it, and it pennies in the dollar. And you can get a deal on them, and you can get one that way. And if you buy it used for half price of what it would have been brand new 2 years earlier, and it's going down the road and starts to leak, you go, Still only cost me half what the other sucker paid for it. Just understand going in what you're getting yourself into. But none of them are trouble free. None of them are. Devon bound is turtles all the way down. What's the other turtle standing on? Another turtle. Hi, Steve. Is personal injury the most profitable law practice? The attorneys who make the most, generally speaking, except for really, really oddball situations, probably are the ones who do personal injury, auto negligence, or the cases that involve very, very serious injuries such as wrongful death, that kind of thing. I've got some friends who do that stuff, and yes, they make very good money. There are some other things you can do, like, class action attorneys can make a lot of money, but there's not as many of those kinds of cases out there as there are personal injuries. But yeah, personal injury would probably be the most profitable, but it means there's also a lot of competition. And when you get out of law school and you hang out a shingle, you're competing with a lot of people. So the question is, how do you get the cases? Little known fact, and probably a secret that most people don't know about, is when you get out of law school, the hard part is not doing the work. The hard part is getting clients to do work for. And that's something that many people don't realize. Dime bag coins, what about a tour bus? Is that the same as well? Well, the same thing with a tour bus is, get what you're paying for and understand you're paying up. I got a friend who's got a big old, lack of a better word, tour bus. But it's a huge coach. It's got air conditioning units, and it's 3 axles and more tires than you can shake a stick at, and it's got like marble countertops, and you can stand up in the shower. And he paid for it, and that's the whole point. Is you're going to pay more than you think to get what you want, unless you buy used. So Ember Mist 69 says another thing to think about is the size and the chassis maker. You could be spending big money for repair parts, example, Freightliner chassis. And there's all kinds of other chassis manufacturers, like Spartan chassis. And so I've spoken to people before who did not even stop to think about that the warranties on your RV will often be included in a banker's box. And I've seen a banker's box full of warranties. So warranty on the engine, warranty on the drivetrain, warranty on the chassis, warranty on like the shell of the unit, a warranty on the refrigerator, warranty on the microwave, warranty on the satellite dish. Yes, and so I've had someone tell me that they bought an RV and they had a problem with the engine. They go back to the dealer, and the dealer goes, "We don't do that. We don't have a guy here who works on those. You got to take it to basically a truck dealer and have them work on it." Well, many people go, "So what, Steve? What's the difference?" Oh, there's a huge difference. The selling dealer is somewhat incentivized to take care of you. The truck dealer that's got to call the manufacturer and ask for warranty repairs on something they didn't sell, you're not being pushed to the front of that line. I don't care what anybody says. And so I've got horror stories about people who are driving, like, buy this RV and drive cross country. And there's someplace out in New Mexico or something. Something goes haywire in the vehicle. They call the dealership they bought it from, who says, "Well, you couldn't even bring it to us if you were nearby," which you're not. But there is a truck dealer about 200 miles from you. You can take it there. So they limp it over there, and they're told, "Oh, there's a 3-week wait. We got other people ahead of you." But they won't let you camp out in your RV on their property the way that the company would. Another story for another day. Craig, do you advertise your law firm on TV? No, I don't advertise my law firm at all, period. I've never paid a penny to advertise, except I've paid for Yellow Page ads back in the early 90s. That's it. Harry Seldon, are you reasonably safe if you rent an RV rather than buy? Yes, because you can turn it back in at the end of the week and go, boy, I'm glad I didn't buy that thing. Oh, boy. Mark Miller, T minus 14 ish. Got to go. Happy Saturday, everyone. And to you, my friend, good seeing you as well. Stagecraft Productions. How about if you did a timed show so we can include your show on internet TV? I put it up on my backup channel a while back. I actually was talking to somebody about the idea of making a show that could be broadcast in a television setting. And so I did segments which, if you plug them together, would have allowed for commercials and would have timed out at perfectly 30 minutes. But that didn't end up going anywhere. And it's doable, but it's not as fun. So Southern Torrent, I'd pay money to see a Lehto's Law ad on a billboard. Cody Prine, just don't rent your RV from Hertz. Yeah, I'm telling you right now, if you lived in an HOA, you rent an RV from Hertz and park it in your front yard, and worlds will collide. Tom, better call Steve. I had somebody years ago take the Better Call Saul billboard graphics and change it to Better Call Lehto's Law, but that's been a while ago. Stagecraft Productions that we can work with. Can I show you the link you'd be on with us? Send it to my email address. I'm not quite sure what you're talking about, but that shouldn't limit you. Trying to knock over my Gatorade here. And yeah, send it there. And I'll work on with you. Serial 0411, are you archiving your old videos in another channel? Some of them I am. And I have a second channel. It's called Steve Lehto's Other Channel. And I got about 30,000 subscribers there, 28,000, 29,000, like that. So, Alexander Ganaka, do you know a lawyer named Stephen P. New? No. Brent Beecham, I love your anecdotes. Do you have fact-based data against buying an RV? No, I don't. I'll admit for you that everything I know is anecdotal. Okay. But I can tell you by the number of phone calls I get in my office, there's a lot of disgruntled recent RV purchasers. Oh, boy. Time to change Jersey style is in the house for another 10, 12 minutes. Bill Van Ramsey, my friends, bought a $200,000 RV. It spent almost 6 months in the dealership the first year for warranty work. Does not surprise me at all. Now, Brent, I don't know Bill Van Ram personally, but I think he's an honest guy. And of course, he's telling us about his friend. But I believe it. But again, I'm basing that stuff on people I've talked to myself. Chuck Whitehead, do they offer driving courses for RVs? Just get in and drive. That's a scary concept. I've seen people driving these monstrosities down the road, pulling a boat or something, and you hope they know what they're doing, but they probably don't. Gilbert says that's hearsay. Yeah, but there are exceptions to hearsay, my friend. Depending on the declarant is still alive or unavailable or not. Daniel Kester says, hey, Steve, your second channel still pops up for me as The Vault. That's possible. I can tell you that right now, that it's entitled Steve Lehto Second Channel. It's got 28,497 subscribers as of right now. Yeah, Dan Boyd asks, and JB05 mentions, that CDL should be required to drive a large RV. I don't know necessarily how large they'd have to be to require a CDL, but I still see people driving them who shouldn't be. JW, do you still have your canoe? Yes. It's a small motor in the sense it's only 5 horsepower. It's a big motor in the sense it's the largest engine you can put on in a canoe of that size. It'll do 12 miles an hour. Oh boy. No, Kellikakakoten says, "Are you still running marathons?" I haven't. I skipped last year's Free Press Marathon. First one I've missed in a long, long time. I just got so busy last year, I didn't have time for it. So I don't train in weather like this. I do not own a treadmill. I still have a Peloton, which I ride periodically. But the Peloton is not quite the same exercise. It does not translate directly. A treadmill would, but I don't own one. Standard Deviation says Dodge is offering or offer driving courses with the purchase of an SRT8 or Viper. Yeah, there was a time when you could do that. Also, I think Ford offered them as well with some high end performance cars. So that'd be pretty cool too. Daniel Kessler says in a crash, those RVs can do almost as much damage as a semi, or as much. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I saw, I think it was an RV the size of a semi that went off the road someplace north on I-75, 30, 40 miles south of the bridge. That was down in the median and had tumbled or rolled or something, and it was all torn apart. And at first, I thought it was a mobile home that had gotten like hit by a tornado or something. And I realized, oh no, that's just a torn apart. That's the box off of an RV. So I don't know why it went down there, but I suspect there was an accident where somebody cut somebody off, and the driver of the RV made a sudden turn, possibly. I'm not saying they were wrong or right. I'm just saying that's something happened, and they wind up down in the median there, and it was just stuff everywhere. And it looked like a tornado had gone through and destroyed a couple of homes, but it was in a median. There's just grass there. So Harry Selden, does YouTube automatically monetize if you get enough views, or do you have to apply for it? It's not views, it's how many subscribers you have and how many people have watched your videos over time. And yes, you have to apply for it. And I can tell you that I didn't seek monetization until about 3 years after I could have. And a guy who's no longer watching, I haven't seen him in a while, um, sent me a note. He goes, "Steve, why isn't your channel monetized?" And I said, "I don't know. Why should I monetize?" He goes, "You'll make some money." I said, "Okay." And I monetized. I'm like, "Oh, that's kind of cool." So Alexander Gunakis says, "I drove a truck with air brakes, non-CDL. My M35 Deuce and a half had air brakes, no CDL required. It was below the cutoff for the weight. And I had several people say, but it's got air brakes. You got to have a CDL. No. Harrison of the North of Braithwaite. Greetings from the English Lake District. Sounds scenic. Sometimes I listen to myself. Please excuse my absence. I will listen to it at work tomorrow. There you go. David Phillips, toothpicks and insulation. He's describing, I'm guessing, how they build a motorhome on a chassis. Mexican spec. Who buys orange solo cups? I, for one, do. Good Citizen, 340 million combined views, 2.7 thousand videos. All right, is that off my channel? Hang on, I'll tell you. One little known fact is that the numbers that are forward facing on YouTube are slightly different than the numbers that I have available to me. And how many views? 340 million? No, I got 374. 374 million views on my channel to date. And so if you want to talk about time in watch hours, lifetime, 43 million hours of watch time have been wasted on my channel. So that's it. But yeah, to monetize your channel, you need 1,000 subscribers. And I forgot the number of minutes of watch time. And then you apply, and if they think that your channel is something advertisers want to place their ads on, then you're good. So James Scott, if you make enough money, would you retire from being a lawyer? Believe it or not, I know it's going to sound hokey, but it's true. I don't do what I do to make money. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like money. No. I like money, but I like being a lawyer because I actually like being a lawyer, and I like shooting videos, and like shooting videos. And I was shooting videos before I got paid to shoot videos, and I hope that my videos didn't change much. And so it's not a matter of how much money I make. It's more a matter of when it stops being fun. And if this stopped being fun, I would probably stop doing it. So that's really it. Blah blah blah. How's your wife Carol and the three kids? Um, I don't even know anybody named Carol. Oh, good citizen. Is that guy checking out at 3 p.m.? It usually is right around 3ish. Janie Segrest, imagine coming into the chat as Steve is giggling over a wad of Benz. But Janie, I hope you were here long enough to know that those are fake. See, it's motion picture money. Oh, serial 0411. I thought it was 2.5 kids. 2.5 or 3.5. Either way. Exactly one or the other. Daniel Kester says if you ever need it, you'll be able to use your videos as public service. I don't think so. Unless I got a judge to say, Mr. Lehto, you understand that crime you committed, you need to shoot videos where you apologize for that crime and explain. And maybe it was that specific, possibly, but I think they look at it and go, dude, you have too much fun making the videos. You can't make that your punishment. Mrs. Teresa, 1999. I always enjoy your videos and wish you a wonderful week. Well, thank you, my friend. Ram 50 V8 says, my cat Angel's been watching you the entire show. There was a time when I asked viewers to send in photographs of themselves watching my channel, and if they could, also their pets. I got to go dig those videos out. That's a long time ago, but I got a lot of pictures of people with their cats and dogs watching my show. Mexican spec telling somebody to do something fun takes the fun out of it. Yeah, but it's still more, it's still more fun than I don't know, community service where you're like out washing police cars. I actually knew a guy who got arrested and he got in charge of something, and his punishment was he had to sit in jail for a period of time. And the cops would actually say, if you want to get out and stretch your legs, you can come out and wash the cars with us. It's like, okay, so that's like washing police cars. He's like, yeah, it beats sitting in a cell. Oh, Dan Boyd, cats are good desk buddies. Yeah, the problem I have is that I'm allergic to cats. I love animals. I love animals. I don't want cats in my house because I'm allergic to them, and I don't want woodchucks in my garage because woodchucks. Gilbert, my cat likes to watch cat videos. Really? My dogs, Milo and Wolfie, didn't even know that there's something on television. Literally, they'd walk around. I mean, there'd be a dog barking on TV, and they're like, wouldn't it occur to them that they should look at the TV? I never quite got how it's such a human thing to recognize that, oh, that guy on that screen right there, that's me. So this camera, dogs just no connection. Sal Gukko, well, now we'll be waiting for that autobiography of yours. I haven't accomplished enough yet to do an autobiography. Oh, Ram 50 V8 is allergic to cats, but I scratched my way through it. It's not itchy with me. I get asthma attacks. I can't breathe. I literally it's like suddenly my bronchial tubes have been put down to like straw size and are being crushed. And oh, that's a scary concept. It's so hard to think there's air all around me and I'm suffocating. So Kelikaka Coat, what if you had one of those naked Egyptian cats? Too hideous? They're kind of strange looking. I've never actually. I'm not sure if I've seen one in real life, but I wonder about that. I don't know. Are they hypoallergenic or whatever? Idris Taylor. I've never heard of anyone being allergic to ferrets. I know someone who's got a ferret. I've been near it, and I suspect that it has many of the characteristics of a cat. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. John Zabelak says woodchucks make great Geico commercials. Not sure if I've seen that. Jimmy Joe Feinstein was definitely allergic to cats till I learned to like them. I grew up with a cat. We had a cat in our house. I remember bringing the cat home when I was like 4 years old. And the cat lived to 16. So he was there my entire school years, from kindergarten through high school. And towards the end, I started noticing that being around him, and then also if he got in my room, especially if he was on my bed, I'd have a hard. It wasn't that bad, but it got worse over time. So yeah, Don Store, don't ever get behind the curve with asthma. Yeah, yeah. Oh, Ram 50 V8, the scratching was a joke. They do affect my breathing. Yeah. Tone Divider says gas or electric stovetops. I'm not sure the question is related to, but I can also say that one of the things I'm kind of odd about is that if a cat was here right now, the cat would just jump up and bump the microphone, knock the camera over, knock this on the floor. And cats are like that. And I understand that they don't seem to care. Like, a cat will just walk by and start drinking this and then probably knock it over. And so you got to worry about these things. Like, what if the cat jumps up on the stove and walks over and steps on the, you know, so Aaron Freeman, if you don't like your job, it's the wrong thing to do for money. Yeah, and that's kind of thing. You have to when you're younger, adults will tell you, find a job you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Well, you can't just walk out of high school and get a job doing like I want to be an A-10 Warthog pilot tomorrow. It doesn't work that way. I've seen videos of it. It's cool. It looks like fun, man. Okay. So some jobs require training and some work and some luck and all kinds of stuff, right? But if you keep trying to work in a given direction, eventually you might wind up like I worked in radio for years and I love talking and so on. And then I went to law school and became a lawyer. And I found I like talking to people about the law. And along comes YouTube and I can talk to people about the law on video and boom. Who'd have thought when I was going to law school, the internet was still a theory. Okay. It was not something that you could get onto and surf. Okay. Who'd have thought that all these years later, I'd be doing this? If you described it to me and says, hey, Steve, somewhere down the road, you're going to be sitting in front of a little tiny camera speaking into the microphone from the radio station, and people from the world can watch you in real time. And there'll be 400 people watching in the room at one time and all kinds of people discussing it with you. I'd be like, how? What? Huh? So it could even be that right now, if you're in school and you don't know what you want to do, what you wind up doing might not even exist yet. But aim in that direction. Try to find what you like doing, because work goes faster if it's more fun than if it's not. I've had jobs I hated. It's like, okay, work that job until you can find a job you hate less. If nothing else, work your way up, right? Harley D thinks there might be some training involved to become an A-10 pilot that could be difficult. But you got to admit, that would have to be a fun job. Tone divider. What's the microphone? It's an Electro Voice RE20. We've discussed that before, but that's okay. I like talking about it. Oh boy. Aaron Freeman, you have sinned. You must make a video and include my girlfriend who sings a little. Oh. Gilbert loves sewing, hated being a tailor, but you're now an upholsterer? Or that's what you got into? Okay. Pain, you know. I talk romantically now about how I used to drive a tow truck. I'm telling you right now, if you went back and talked to young Steve at the side of the road at 18 years old, pouring rain, trying to hook up two wrecked cars, crawling around on my hands and knees with big metal hooks, trying to find a place to hook them, and go, "Hey, Steve, someday you'll look back on this and you'll think this was fun." I never would have believed you. Never would have believed you. It's not Me07, no Canadian Robot Lady today. Yeah, she was busy today, I'm pretty sure. So we'll talk to her about that. Brent Beecham, people with higher education often don't mention if it was hard for them because you like being a lawyer, was law school easier? Yes, yes. I was fascinated by the law. And don't get me wrong, to become a lawyer took a lot of hard work to get there. And the hard work itself wasn't fun in that sense, but it was a sense of accomplishment. And I'm gonna tell you right now, my class started with 76 or 75 students. 36 or 37 of them washed out. One half of the class I started with was gone by graduation. Okay. Every round of finals, we'd come back and somebody'd be missing. Hey, did you hear so and so's out? Oh boy. So it was a lot of hard work. It was expensive. I borrowed a lot of money, but it was something I enjoyed. So there you go. Kelly Coton says the aircraft at the beginning of the $6 million man, which is the crash, we can rebuild him. We have the technology. Was an actual Air Force experimental plane. The opening video is of a real crash. It looked like it. It actually looked like it. I remember believing that. Bill Van Ram says, aren't A-10s being discontinued? They say that. They keep saying that, but I hope they're not. I just love watching the footage of them on YouTube. Anyway, we're well beyond 3 o'clock. I've been here now for 2 hours and 12 minutes, as have many of you. So I want to thank you all for showing up like you do on the Sundays. And Harry Selden says, by the way, we are all AI generated, and you're actually in a room talking to yourself, assuming I'm not AI generated also. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.